Meet Olivia Adams, the daughter of one of the most influential CEOs in the industry. Born into privilege, she was expected to follow a predetermined path of success. Yet today, she wasn't walking through those grand glass doors as an executive. There was no private office awaiting her, no luxurious suits, and certainly no VIP treatment. Instead, Olivia was stepping into an entirely different world, one where her name meant nothing, where her background carried no weight. Fresh from earning her master's degree abroad, she could have easily claimed a high-ranking position within her father's company. But her father had a different vision for her future. He wanted her to understand the company, not from the lofty heights of the boardroom, not through reports and financial statements, but from the very foundation where the real work took place. And so, Olivia Adams entered the company not as an heir to an empire, but as a cleaner. But this wasn't just about sweeping floors or wiping down desks. This was about gaining an education no university could provide, understanding how people truly behave when they believe no one important is watching. And soon enough, Olivia would stumble upon a truth so shocking it would send tremors through the entire organization. Oops, looks like you've got work to do, sweetheart. From the moment she set foot in the building, Olivia experienced the unspoken hierarchy firsthand. Some treated her with respect, while others barely acknowledged her presence. To many, she was invisible, just another faceless worker in the background, someone to be ignored. Then there was Jacob. Jacob, a senior employee, exuded arrogance. He thrived on power, on the ability to make others feel small. From the moment he laid eyes on Olivia, he made it his personal mission to make her life miserable. One morning, as she moved about her duties, a dark liquid spread across his desk. He smirked, feigning surprise. "Oh no, I seem to have made a mess. Why don't you clean that up? And be quick about it. I have real work to do." Olivia glanced at the spilled coffee. It was deliberate. He had knocked it over on purpose. A petty display of dominance. Her fingers curled around the cloth in her hands, but she took a deep breath, swallowing the sting of humiliation. She reminded herself why she was here. So without a word, she set to work. Jacob leaned back in his chair, watching her like she was a mere amusement. "You're slow. If you want to last here, you'd better pick up the pace." As the room filled with the sound of laughter, Olivia remained silent. But across the room, another pair of eyes observed the exchange. Michael, a fellow senior employee, stood watching. Unlike Jacob, his face was not twisted in cruelty. Instead, it was filled with something else. Discomfort, maybe even regret. Their eyes met briefly, and in that moment, Olivia saw it, an unspoken apology. Day after day, Jacob's torment continued. He made a game of it, dropping trash on the floor just as she finished cleaning, forcing her to redo tasks for no reason, calling her out in front of others for his own entertainment. Then one day he decided to push even further. He tossed a bag at her feet. "Take these to the laundry. I like my shirts crisp and spotless." Olivia blinked at the bag. "I'm here to clean the office, not run personal errands." Jacob's smirk widened, his eyes glinting with amusement. He had been waiting for her to resist. "You're here to do whatever I tell you to do. Now pick up the bag and get moving." Before Olivia could respond, a voice cut through the tension. "That's not fair, Jacob. She's an office cleaner, not your personal servant." The entire room fell silent. Jacob turned slowly, his expression darkening. "Mind your own business, Michael." But Michael didn't waver. "This isn't right, and you know it." Jacob scoffed, dismissing him with a wave. Then he turned back to Olivia, his voice dripping with condescension. "So, are you taking the clothes, or do I need to remind you who's in charge here?" The air was thick with anticipation. The room was watching, waiting to see what she would do. Olivia swallowed, straightened her shoulders, and met Jacob's gaze head-on. "That is not my job, sir." A tense silence followed. Then Jacob threw his head back and laughed. A cruel, mocking sound. "Oh, we've got a little rebel here, huh?" Without warning, he grabbed a cup of water from the table and with a smug grin, poured it over her head. Gas filled the break room as the cold liquid soaked through Olivia's uniform, dripping from her hair, trailing down her skin. The chill was sharp, but she didn't flinch. She refused to give him that satisfaction. Jacob leaned in, his voice low and taunting. "Next time, Make sure the water you serve me is cold. I don't drink warm water. Michael slammed his palm against the table. That's enough, Jacob. But Jacob only shrugged, utterly unfazed. Relax, Michael. She's just a cleaner. It's her job to handle messes. A slow, burning heat spread through Olivia's chest, but she didn't break. Instead, she calmly picked up a cloth and wiped the table as if nothing had happened. Michael stepped forward, concern evident in his expression. Olivia! But she shook her head ever so slightly. Not yet. Jacob smirked, believing he had won. What he didn't know was that his time was running out. Later that afternoon, as Olivia continued her duties, a storm was already brewing, one that would change everything. As the door clicked shut behind her, Olivia turned, her breath catching at the sight of Jacob leaning against the doorframe. His arms were crossed, his posture dripping with arrogance, and a smug grin played on his lips. You're working hard. I like that, he said smoothly, his tone unsettling in a way that made Olivia's skin crawl. She straightened her back, meeting his gaze with quiet defiance. I have work to do, Jacob, if you'll excuse me. She moved a step past him, but before she could, his hand shot out, grasping her arm firmly. A sharp breath escaped her lips as his fingers lingered, pressing just a little too long, a little too tight. I could make things a lot easier for you, he murmured, his voice laced with unspoken promises. Olivia yanked her arm away, her heart pounding. What do you mean? Jacob smirked, a glint of amusement in his eyes. You're new here, but I have influence. I can make sure you get better treatment, better opportunities, maybe even something bigger than this pathetic cleaning job. He leaned in, his voice dropping to a whisper. All you have to do is make me happy. A wave of revulsion surged through her. She took a step back, putting distance between them. No. The smirk faltered, replaced by a flicker of irritation. Think about it, sweetheart. You work hard, but no one respects you. That could change. I could protect you. Her pulse pounded, but she forced her voice to remain steady. I don't need your protection. Jacob's expression darkened, his charm replaced by something colder, more menacing. You should be careful how you speak to me. I have a good reputation here. No one would believe a little cleaner over me. Olivia held his gaze, unwavering. Maybe not now, but people always reveal who they truly are. And sooner or later, they face the consequences. Jacob scoffed, his confidence barely shaken. Big words for a nobody. With a sneer, he yanked open the door. You'll regret this. He stormed out, but as Olivia stepped into the hallway, she noticed something. People had seen. Some looked away, pretending they hadn't, but others like Michael, watched Jacob with narrowed eyes, their disgust clear. Not everyone in this office was blind. Some were simply afraid to speak, but they wouldn't have to be afraid much longer, because Jacob's time was running out. The tension in the conference room was suffocating. Employees murmured in hushed anticipation as the clock struck 10 a.m. The air was thick with uncertainty, though most didn't yet understand why. At the front of the room, Jacob stood tall, his signature smirk plastered across his face. Whatever this meeting was about, he was convinced it would serve his ambitions. He had no idea what was coming. Thank you all for coming today, Mr. Adams began, his voice calm yet resolute. I have a very important announcement to make. Jacob, ever the opportunist, seized the moment. Sir, why is she here? He gestured toward Olivia with disdain. This is a meeting for important people. We don't need the cleaning staff wasting our time. A few uneasy glances flickered across the room. Mr. Adams turned to Jacob, his expression unreadable. But when he spoke, his words sent a chill through the room. Mr. Adams turned to Jacob, his expression unreadable. But when he spoke, his words sent a chill through the room. Jacob, I personally invited her to this meeting. Jacob's smirk faltered for the first time. But sir, she's just a... Enough. Silence fell. Mr. Adams took a measured breath. For months, I've been preparing for a major transition in this company. As many of you know, I will be retiring soon, and I have carefully chosen my successor. Excited whispers rippled through the room. Jacob straightened, his confidence returning. This was it, his moment. His smirk reappeared, certain he was about to be named. But then Mr. Adams turned to Olivia. My successor is Olivia Adams. The room erupted in gasps. Jacob's face drained of color, his expression frozen in disbelief. Wait, what? Mr. Adams continued, his voice unwavering. She is not just a cleaner. She is my daughter, and for weeks she has been working undercover, observing this company from the ground level, not through reports but through first-hand experience. Murmurs spread like wildfire. And what she discovered, Mr. Adams's gaze landed squarely on Jacob, was unacceptable. Jacob stiffened. Sir, this is a misunderstanding. We were just having fun. I didn't mean anything by it. So you think humiliating others, abusing power and harassment are just harmless fun? Jacob's grip tightened on the table, his world unraveling before him. This company does not tolerate bullying. It does not tolerate abuse of power, and it will not tolerate men like you. Mr. Adams exhaled slowly. Effective immediately, you are fired. The words hit like a thunderclap. Jacob staggered back, hands trembling. Sir, please. My family, my kids, they depend on me. Mr. Adams' voice was firm, unyielding. You should have thought about them before you decided to destroy someone else's dignity for your own amusement. Two security officers stepped forward. Jacob's eyes darted around wildly. You did this. You ruined me. Olivia met his gaze without flinching. No, Jacob. You ruined yourself. The officers cuffed him, his protests fading as he was escorted out, leaving behind a stunned silence. The air in the office felt lighter. The weight of fear and injustice that had lingered for weeks had lifted. Those who had once laughed at Jacob's cruelty now looked ashamed. Others, like Michael, stood taller, knowing they had chosen integrity over silence. Mr. Adams addressed the staff. Today you have all witnessed an important lesson. A company's success is not just measured in profits. It is measured in character. The way we treat others, especially those we believe have nothing to offer us, speaks volumes about who we truly are. He turned to Michael and a few others. Some among you chose kindness over cruelty. You stood up for what was right, even when it was hard, and for that you will be rewarded. Michael's eyes widened. Sir, really? Mr. Adams nodded. You demonstrated true leadership when it mattered most. That is the kind of leadership this company needs. Emotion thickened Michael's voice. Thank you, sir. I won't disappoint you. Mr. Adams smiled. I know you won't. Then he turned to Olivia, pride shining in his eyes. You endured things no one should have to, yet you never lost your dignity. He pulled her into a tight embrace. She had earned her place, not because she was the CEO's daughter, but because she had proven herself. As he stepped back, Mr. Adams faced the room one final time. Olivia will take over as CEO, and I expect each of you to treat her with the same respect you would give anyone in a leadership position. Olivia stepped forward, her voice strong. This company will be built on fairness, respect, and integrity. If you work hard, you will be rewarded. If you abuse your power, you will face consequences. Simple. Some employees nodded. Others looked uneasy, but change had begun, and Olivia was ready.